But first, I want to start with a story that dropped last Friday in The Athletic by my man, Sam Khan Jr., who has the enviable role of being the techspert at The Athletic. Means he covers the state of Texas, high school, college, going all over that great state to tell us great football stories. And he came up with a doozy last Friday as it relates to Texas Longhorns football. Some of you probably saw some of the numbers circulating around the Twitters, and I have mentioned them several times, not necessarily on the Twitters because I want to save it all for this segment on this show. A lot to go through here. So you'll know that in the month of June, your mans went into Arch Manning overdrive. We did 3 consecutive weeks of a 3-week series about where Arch Manning should go play or commit to play college football. Took a look at Alabama, Georgia, and Texas, as those were the places that he had set up official visits. Your man told you the one that makes the most sense is the University of Texas, and the University of Texas said, hey, RJ, we got you. We're going to secure a commitment from Arch Manning before the 4th of July. But the planning and the money that goes into it is always fascinating and interesting. So I want to talk about those numbers. I want to talk about what those numbers might mean. Say, what are you betting on when you spend this amount of money to get a player onto your campus to convince him to commit? And what does it mean for the future of Texas Longhorns football? So the weekend that Arch Manning was at the University of Texas, June 17th through the 19th for his official visit, that means that the University of Texas gets to pull out all of the stops. And they sure as hell did. The Manning visit, according to The Athletic, cost $280,000 for the 9 recruits plus Arch that were attending for that weekend. This is actually on par with what Texas does normally for their official visitors, because the next week, June 24th, they had 14 recruits. They spent $350,000. 12 players from that group committed to the Longhorns, including Arch Manning to Texas, right? So $630,000 in total over 2 weekends is investing in recruiting. More than $500,000, or the price of a really, really nice house in Tulsa, an okay house in Austin, and one in Inglewood in California. I don't even know how y'all get down over there in California, man. I'll be looking at y'all housing market. I'd be like, damn, I can't afford to do that, and I do this for a living. All right, so on top of that $630,000, what does that actually mean? Okay, it means that Texas spent $1.275 million and change over the 2019 fiscal year on recruiting, right? That's before the plague stopped everything, changed the way that we do business, sped up a lot of the economics, got us into a recession, I want to say like 3 years earlier, but I don't want to turn this into an episode of The Atlantic while we're talking to, you about The Athletic. But because I'm just that far away from the PhD that I would love to go there. Look, highlights from that weekend that Arch was in town, June 14th through the 17th, include a trip that, I have to start with this. You stayed at the Four Seasons, okay? So I looked it up because I was in Austin, Texas, staying at a very nice Marriott. And I was like, what does it cost to stay at the Four Seasons? $1,000 a night. Let me say that again. It cost $1,000 a night to stay at the Four Seasons. Remember, it ain't just the boys that is coming. It's the boys and their parents and their siblings and whomever else they want to have on their official visit to the University of Texas. All right. They also got a photo shoot at Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium. I will never get over the fact that the University of Texas's home football field, or I should say its football stadium, is named after an Oklahoma Sooner. Because y'all remember that DKR actually graduated from the University of Oklahoma before he gave y'all all that luxury that you have down there in Austin, including those national championships that you got to, take part in, like say 1969, so forth, so on. Also, the recruitment of Earl Campbell. Oklahoma's given Texas a lot, I guess is the point that I'm making here. They also got to have a trip to the driving range at Topgolf. I've been out to Topgolf. It's not inexpensive, but it's by far not the most expensive thing on this list. And they had lavish meals and breakfasts at Steve Sarkisian's home. So number one on this is somebody somewhere, shout out to this parent, because this parent has my whole heart, ordered a shot of Johnny Walker Blue while on this visit and had the University of Texas pay for it. For those of you that are uninitiated, that's about, I want to say $70 a glass, like for this much. Man, if you got it, go spend it. Use other people's money. Be about other people's money, like hedge fund managers everywhere. Steve Sarkisian does not live in a small home, as he is the head coach at the flagship university in the state of Texas. Now, that also means that Steve Sarkisian is one of the richest public employees, not just the state of Texas, but the United States as it pertains to, universities. And I can only imagine how much money they spent on breakfast at Steve Sarkisian's home. Shout out to L'Oreal Sarkisian, who throws up that dynasty science. We're going to throw up the hooks over here. If you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. Now, what I find most interesting about all of this is that the University of Texas does not spend the most amount of money on recruiting. By far, it doesn't. Matter of fact, University of Texas and Texas A&M consistently are two of the top 5 programs when it comes to generating funds overall in revenue every single year. Okay, it keeps getting closer. I want to say it's close to $250 million that those programs bring in each year. Now, University of Georgia spends $3.67 million on recruiting. Okay, that was the 2019 fiscal year. Texas is 13th on that list. Say this again. University of Georgia spends $3.6 million in change, call it 3.7, in 2019 on recruiting. Texas spent 1.275. All to say that it is not a small amount of money to you and I that Texas spent on this, but it is by far not enough money to compete with the likes of Georgia. And you've seen what that has meant for Georgia. It means that they get to be in the college football playoff and play for national championships and then win one as they are the defending national champions. Also to me means that University of Texas could actually up its game. And that is saying something, as the University of Texas does recruit very, very, very well, but not necessarily on par with Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State or even Oklahoma in some instances. And that's at a state like Georgia, which does not have the price of living in, say, Austin, right? Unless you live on Augusta National, and nobody's living on Augusta National because it's Augusta National, you just aren't playing in the same sandbox there. Now, if you spend this amount of money on a recruiting visit where you know the number 1 player in the country, also last name Manning, is coming to see you, what are you investing in is the very important question. So let's take that $280,000 that was spent on the weekend for Arch Manning to visit the University of Texas. Vince Young beat USC, vaunted USC, unbeatable USC with Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, the whole deal, 2005, 41-38. That same year, Reggie won the Heisman Trophy. I submit to you, what would it look like if the University of Texas had also added a Heisman Trophy winner in Vince Young to its national championship season in 2005? Well, we got a little bit to go on there. And it goes back to when Johnny Manziel won the Heisman Trophy 2012, right? How much money did Texas A&M bring in the year after Johnny Manziel won the Heisman Trophy 2013? From alumni donations alone, Texas A&M brought in $750 million. Now, that is the top line thought for an Arch Manning on an individual award, right? Bringing in that amount of money. Then add to that, you are the agricultural and mechanical college. You are not the flagship. You are state school. You are not the school. What happens if Johnny Manziel was playing at Texas and won the Heisman? And then what happens if Johnny Manziel was playing at Texas, won the Heisman National Championship? You get an amalgamation of Johnny Manziel and Vince Young at the University of Texas. That is a license to print money. So this is a drop in the bucket is what I'm saying here. $280,000 for 3 days where you're gambling on, hey, if he's real good, we will make this back 20, 30 times over, because that's also 2013 money they made, $750 million. What does that look like now as we're in rising inflation, like unstoppable inflation? Everything costs more, and nobody sees an end in sight to everything costing more. When you can have a Manning win you a national championship and a Heisman Trophy. Probably the closest thing we get to look at right now is what Alabama is doing, and we won't know what Alabama's fiscal year looks like the year after Bryce Young wins the Heisman Trophy until next year, but I'm very curious to find out what that is. All to say, as much money as they seem to have spent and have spent compared to you and I make, or what you and I think someone else ought to make, or how much money is actually getting spent, yo, man, it's nothing. So money well spent to the University of Texas as they got the commitment and they're building on that, and then they played Alabama close and got ranked off of playing Alabama closely. Texas got ranked off a loss. I love this sport. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.